I'm Brandon Miller, and you are listening to Coach. This weekly series dives deep into the world of Clifton strengths and how they impact your daily life. Hear from certified strengths coaches on the ins and outs, quirks, and characteristics of all 34 strengths and 4 domains and how they play out in real life. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Strengths Whisperer Coach to Coach. We are in the final episode of Season 2, and I have my guest today with me, Jonathan Davey of RenewYourWorkplace.com. And today we are talking about Includer. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, my pleasure. So I was joking with Jonathan that we went through all of the strengths that we've covered with Season 2. 37 episodes have been recorded, and we realized that we excluded Includer. So here we are, friends, bringing Includer to you for the final of Season 2. And sneak peek today, we get to talk about Season 3, which is coming up soon for those of you that will hear this in the month of March, the year 2025. So Jonathan, thank you for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and RenewYourWorkplace.com?
Yeah, so we revitalize small and medium-sized businesses. Our focus is really alleviating the HR burdens that people feel day to day. Our focus is coming in, enhancing the employee experience all the way from arrival to departure. So we're in Kansas City, Missouri, and we use Clifton Strengths as really one of our main tools to help create some healthy organization.
I love it. And in today's landscape of work, I imagine there are plenty of opportunities for you to come and help workplaces think about their human resources and the whole life cycle of their employee teams.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we're working with higher education institutions. We're working with tech industries, nonprofits, and government entities. A lot of change management, a lot of how do we create this feeling of inclusion and belonging within our workplace. So it's never a dull moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us, you have a business where Clifton Strengths is, it sounds like one of your anchor points. How did you come to be a strengths coach, and why did you choose this tool?
I actually fell into it. When I started my grad work at the University of Arkansas, we were a strengths-based institution, and I worked in the first year experience. So I was introduced to the tool, and we used it heavily since we were the ones that were going out there and trying to share it with other people. And I fell in love with it. My background was in psychology. It has its roots in positive psychology. So I was drawn to it right away. And I saw the power of it working at its max when I was there at the university. And everybody within our department used it. The language was used around the university. And I was able to see the magic happening. And so I said, yes, I want to use this everywhere I go.
I love it. I love it. So how close was your graduation and launch into the entrepreneur life?
So I became introduced to it in 2010, and then I became certified in 2017 as a coach. So I had used it 7 years up until then.
Very good. And when did you start your company?
2018.
Oh, okay. So certification and off you went into the wild world of entrepreneurship.
Exactly. Yeah. I had worked in the higher education realm, and the main focus was in student leadership development. Once I got this certification, I then jumped right into opening up my own business. People said, you can take this tool, you can take this drive, you can go out and you can help individuals, you can help organizations use this and really live the lives that they want and be happy with the work that they're doing. And I said, heck yeah, let's do that. Let's start right away.
That's great. That's great. I love a good story around entrepreneurship. So I would be curious to hear, how is business going for you?
Business has been great. So relocated to Kansas City and was in Seattle beforehand and did a new rebrand, and people are excited for this work. They're hungry for it. They want to feel heard. They want to feel valued in the workplace. It's just been wonderful. And especially to have someone that's kind of walking them through that change management structure has been kind of the foot in the door.
Yeah, that's great. So today you are the expert and you're going to walk us through includer. And so I'd love for you just to give our listeners just a high level understanding of the strength of includer.
Yeah. So includer is that natural collaborator. They're the person who always wants to have someone at the table. The table is not big enough typically for an includer. They want it to always stretch further, and they want to bring everyone in and make sure that they are heard and involved in the process.
Very good. And what number is includer for you in your top strengths?
It's my number 3.
Okay, number 3. So this is one that you probably use every single day. And I love to ask our guests this season. So how does includer show up for you?
Yeah. So I am a natural collaborator myself. For me, I always love to listen to other people's opinions. I want to gather their feedback. I am that person who is saying, "Hey, I'm the welcoming committee. I'm the one that is saying, let's talk. Let's learn what's going on with you and see how your ideas can be brought into what we're doing."
So Jonathan, I work with a lot of people with high includer. I am married to someone with very high includer. So I've seen this strength play out in some really cool ways. One of them is hospitality. I have found that includers excel at making other people feel welcome. I think it's a gift that includers have. I've watched as includers are excellent at planning events because they have a way to think about the differences between everyone coming, making sure that the event is very intentionally meant so that people from different backgrounds, walks of life, all feel a sense of belonging to the experience. In the workplace, I have met some includers who are some of the best recruiters ever. They are amazing. It's like this gravitas they have for people feeling a sense of belonging, a sense of understanding that you really are looking for me, and making that commitment around a space where someone feels a very specialized, personalized, even curated to them. So curious, just a little bit of that play for you, how some of those aspects of the strength might be showing up.
For me specifically, yes, I love the ability to have that phone call with folks, really break the ice with them, try to understand where they've been, what they want, and it can be anybody. And that's what I've seen with folks with Includer is they're so accepting of any person that you put in front of them. That judgment is gone. They're very interactive. They're very welcoming. They just want to have that conversation, and they're energized by the people too. And for me, especially, if you put me in a cubicle all by myself, I'm going to go nuts. But put me around other people, being able to engage with them is just going to light a fire.
My 17-year-old has includer in his top 5. And something I've always admired about my son is that he naturally takes up for others. So he'll naturally be one that'll voice those that don't have one, or he'll naturally defend or look out for. So a very protective instinct that he has. He has a younger brother, and I've watched it come out of him in that way. Curious for you if you've seen that or experienced that side of includer that really has a how I would say almost a strength that comes through semi-aggressive, could even just come really strong in how it will respond to injustice or something that feels that's not right. That's not how this is going to go.
Yes, because Includer, those people feel that everyone is equal, right? We're all human beings at the end of the day. We break down all of those levels, all of that hierarchy that exists, and we just say, what is the common thing, the theme that all of us have? And it's that we're human beings. And so that's really what we hold on to. And I will say that for me, Includer is very personal because I grew up as an outcast. So I was that person who was kind of the onlooker. I was that person who didn't have a seat at the table. And for me, I get to see that now in others, and to know what they're going through and to know what they're experiencing, because I was that. I was experiencing those things. And so to be able to say, hey, I know what you've been through. I know what that's like. Join me here at the table. And feel this feeling of we are all equal. And to me, that's a tremendous feeling. And to be able to offer that to other people is also tremendous.
That's brilliant. Thank you. And I appreciate you sharing that. When we think about the includer strength, you probably now have the experience of coaching people with strong includer. And when we're coaching as those who are experts in strengths, we know that these are talent-based themes. So these recurring patterns of how people think, feel, and behave, we don't necessarily know how they're going to come out. We can't tell the person it's always going to come out in the best possible way you want it to, because sometimes these strengths can be a bit messy, undeveloped, unrefined. They're still being understood. So curious to hear from you today as the coach side, when you're coaching someone with includer, how to bring out the best of that strength, how to grow it and develop it.
Yeah, I've been with a few people plus myself too, and having to kind of remember these lessons, but it's communicating out what you're experiencing and what you're going through. Because I was coaching a client that was frustrated with their supervisor because they weren't in on every single meeting and they felt left out. They felt, oh, I should be part of these meetings and part of these decisions that are happening, and not necessarily that they felt that they needed to be the ones making the decision, but they felt very strongly that they should be in the room. They felt very strongly that their opinion should be heard as these decisions were being made, or at least just be able to offer their feedback, and how to be able to coach that person to say, this is a very wonderful talent that you have this ability to put aside all those biases, the judgment, and you can create this welcoming atmosphere, but trying to make sure that it's not hindering this person to say, there are those times when decisions are made, and how can you then take that decision and help other people be accepting of it? How can then you be that person who is kind of diplomatic in a sense and saying, these decisions were made at that table. Now let's all come together and embrace it.
That's great. I worked with an executive leader who led with includer, and something she shared with me is that as she developed her leadership and found herself in different positions where there was more exclusivity by design, meaning that there were going to be different levels that decisions would be made. And as a result, you would have a less inclusive or broad base because you needed that smaller team, or those responsible people, the liable parties needed to be able to come together and make that decision. And she would describe for me how coming up, that would feel exclusionary. It would feel like, well, I'm being left out of the room where the decisions are being made, but those decisions are affecting me. And she said, but once she found herself on the other side of the door, and in that place, it was, oh, I understand. There comes a point where to involve too many of us actually can dilute or diminish our ability to make the decision or discuss the situation or problem, what have you, and recognizing that some information is sensitive. It needs to have a select group of listeners or contributors. So curious as you coach leaders, as you coach, especially the ones emerging, right? So leaders that are coming up, they're coming into management roles, director roles, maybe even up into the senior levels, and realizing, okay, this is a strength that can serve me really well, but I also have to be aware that some of the feelings associated may not always contribute to my success. I want to manage that.
Yeah. And that's the hard thing too, is to be able to lean on what is your natural talent and put yourself in positions where that's going to be okay, and recognize what those limitations are going to be. So I includer, it's my number 3. I gravitate toward it a lot. And I also work in HR, where there's a lot of things that are shared and happen, and we have to maintain that confidentiality. And there's a lot of times I struggle that I want to be so transparent when someone comes up and they share a concern, they have an idea, and I just want to talk and dive deep and share everything that I know about the situation, and I can't. And so how instead can I say, let's instead provide again that accepting, tolerant, welcoming atmosphere to this individual that's sharing what they need to share, and just focusing on each individual and not necessarily worrying so much about, oh wait, I didn't bring in all these other people, or I can't be as transparent as I normally would want to be.
I actually had a conversation last week with someone that shared almost exactly what you just said because of the role that they have in human resources, recognizing that there are times where by design, this needs to be a confidential conversation. By design, the transparency that this leader would naturally want. Let's just put it on the table. Let's give people voice. Let's hear the different perspectives, but recognizing that could at times cause more harm than good because some thoughts are undeveloped or some ideas are not developed, or this is, challenging. We're evaluating someone and it's not yet time to bring them into the conversation because either we're not fully baked on what it is we're addressing, or they're not ready, or piling on too much information to give at one time. So in your growth and experience with this, this base of talents that come with the includer strength, I'm curious as you hear some of this, just what might be going through your mind.
I automatically think of when you're bringing all these people together that are going to have, different backgrounds, those with includer, they want them to all get along and to feel the same way that they do, that, hey, we are all the same. And we're all going to be welcoming. And that's not the case, right? Like you said, we all have these different talent themes that we're bringing. That's what the includer wants. That's what the includer is bringing. But not everybody who's now in this space together has that same mentality. And this even happens when you gather, like when I gather all of my friends that I want to come to a party, then all of these different people from all different walks of life don't always mesh together. And what I have to do, and what you have to do as well, if you have high includer and you're working with a group of people, is to take each one into account, right? I want everyone to feel equally important. So if that's the case, I don't want to just bring everyone together and make them feel uncomfortable and put them in a situation where they could be uncomfortable. So instead, same with policy creation. And if you're bringing people before you have the plan set, then you're going to create uncomfort. And that's not the goal of someone who has an includer. It's wanting them to feel that equal part. So working those pieces out ahead of time. So that way, once it is rolled out, once you can start to share, does then that feeling come across? Do people understand and accept whatever is in front of them? That then they're like, yeah, I feel valued. I feel embraced. I feel I belong.
I appreciate that. I think sometimes about those with high includer who have shared with me that they have at times frustrated a smaller, more intimate group because they want to bring more people into the circle. And then maybe some who were hoping for a little bit more intimacy, a little more depth. And if I think of the strength of relator as a complementary strength, right? So maybe someone who wants, I want to take this conversation deeper, but if we add this person, that person, now we're going to stay up here more because we're there. And the sharing around an includer having the presence of mind to know when inclusion of more than what we planned actually can start to work against where other people might be coming from. And it sounded to me very mature, like a very self-aware version of includer that, yes, that is my natural. I want to make the circle bigger. I also need to respect the inclusion of those who have different needs than me and recognize I'm helping to meet those.
Exactly. You have to figure out, and it takes that time and that sharpening of your includer to know when is it going to be that I'm going to hit that level to where it's no longer serving myself and others that I'm trying to work with, when you're just involving more, right? Like there is that natural tendency. Yes, it's great that we involved them in that process. Oh man, we were able to now create something brand new because we involved these stakeholders along the way, or it made for a seamless process. But then there's that level, and I wish I knew the secret sauce to it, but there is that level that you'll learn over time that you just can't add that additional person or that extra layer before it gets messy.
Do you find that includers have an ability in that effort to include to really source within another individual? I see you, I hear you, I understand you, and they seem to do that quickly. They seem to have an ability of almost knowing where you fit. Oh, okay. I can see where you fit, whether it's part of the selection process in a workplace or friend groups, within the context of a social setting or professional setting, that they seem to have a skill around that ability to really identify where people will feel the most included.
Is it just because it's natural that I can't say what that is? You're right. When you see someone and you get it, like I said, with my experience just growing up and how I was that outsider, I can sense it. I know it. It's a body language, perhaps. It's an aura that's around this person. I honestly can't describe what it is, but it's something that you feel and you sense. And you're able to then go out of your way to say, I'm noticing something, I'm picking up on something, and then bring them in.
I'm so glad you did that, because that, with some of these strengths, right? If you think of like connectedness, or there's some strengths that when we say a talent is how you think, how you feel, and how you behave. And so the feeling part, that's a broad range. There's a lot in that, because sometimes it's hard for us to put two words. I feel this about you. I sense something, and I'm not thinking it, I'm feeling it. And I just know, oh, there's something more here. So I'm rolling with that instinct. I'm trusting that this is part of who I am. And I think you and I would agree, this is the power of the language. The power of the language is if we could put a word to this, like, oh, that's your includer. That's what's happening, is your includer is thinking of how to integrate this person in and where they might integrate best.
Exactly. And that's the power of this, right? When we actually take the assessment and we have these terms that we can say, oh, this is always what I thought. This is always what I felt. And now I can articulate it. Now I can share this with other people because I haven't been able to. It's just been the feeling that I've had within me. But now I have some words, and I can now give those words to you to help you better understand.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. This is going to be my segue to season 3. So, Jonathan, thank you for being my guest here at the conclusion of season 2. And for those listening today, Jonathan Davey, renewyourworkplace.com, Kansas City area, but not limited to, right, Jonathan? Have internet, will travel, right? Yeah. And if you heard that from small to mid-sized companies, higher education, tech companies, government agencies, who wants to do that, Jonathan? No, I'm kidding. We take it all, right? Yeah, he's pointing at me. We take it all. And change management, I imagine right now, and I know in my experience, this is a premium season for change management.
It's been huge. And we're also working on some burnout retreats as well. So creating those opportunities for folks that are just doing the job of many and need to be able to kind of step back and reset.
Yeah. I imagine with the RTO efforts, the return to office efforts, the need for inclusion, the need for strengths that this particular one of people feeling welcomed, and because there's resistance. We know that in the market. We know it's challenging when I have set up a whole routine. I've set a whole life up in the last 5 years, 20 to 25. And now you want me to do what? You want me to drive somewhere?
Exactly. We've been able to kind of create our own little bubbles. And now we're coming back into those work spots where we're dealing with other people. And this is coming in very handy, where we're saying, hey, how do I work with you again? Tell me more about who you are and how you show up and how I can navigate that.
Yeah, I had leaders say, yeah, I have to listen to people eat again. I haven't had to do that for a while. We would just all go offline, and now we're in the same room. And I thought, how interesting. I would not have broken it down to that level, but that's true. And even went so far as I had to smell people again. I thought, yeah, I guess that's going to be part of it too. We're all coming back into this new space.
They've seen a 200% increase on deodorant sales.
Oh,
See that? No, it's not true, but it could be. It probably
that's
is.
amazing. That's great. So for our listeners, again, renewyourworkplace.com, Jonathan Davey, do give him a look-see, and he can tell you so much more about Clifton Strengths, the work he's been doing since 2018 in his company. But 2010, so you've been at this a while. You're in your 15th year of working with this particular instrument. I think that gives you expert status. What do you think?
Wow, you just blew my mind. I didn't even put a number to it before, but yeah, I'm almost able to drive.
I know. I mean, 15 years, I've heard the 10,000 hour rule. So you were probably well past your 10,000 hours of work in this space.
That's fantastic.
So friends, I wanted to let you know that season 3 coming up, and we're going to be doing something really cool. We're actually going to have 2 guests, 2 experts on at the same time. And we're going to take a strength like we did today with Includer, but we're going to talk about how Jonathan's Includer is going to be different than another guest Includer based on the other strengths around it. We're calling it Coach to Coach Secrets of the Strengths, because each one of them has a different dynamic to it based on its partners and how those partner strengths influence it and cause it to come through. So you're going to hear 2 strengths talked about at the same time from entirely different perspectives. And to our point earlier, that is what makes this particular inventory so powerful, so unique, is when you get into the nuances and the actual expression of these strengths per individual. I think it's going to be intriguing, don't you think?
Yes, I love that, because you're so right. When a person talks about how their includer shows up versus how my includer shows up, it all is very, very interdependent. And that's what is fantastic about the Clifton Strengths tool as well. If you have other assessments that are out there, I feel that they're all great, right? As an includer would say, come one, come all to the table. And what's nice though, is that this really gives that unique language and really personalizes it for each individual to say, hey, we may have this in common, this trait, this talent theme, but how can it look slightly different based on just who we are, based on our other talent themes, based on our lived experiences? So very exciting.
Very cool. Listeners, you will notice coming up at the release of this episode, 34 days of strength. So we're going to release all 34 videos, short bits from season 2 that are going to take us into the launch of season 3. So stay tuned. You're going to see those announcements coming soon, and season 3 will be upon us soon. For my part, Brandon Miller with 34 Strong. And if you found this episode to be supportive in your efforts to apply Clifton Strengths, either to your coaching business or perhaps your role inside of an organization, feel free to reach out to me directly, Brandon at 34strong.com, and we have a resource for you called How to Be a Good Team Member to Me. It will provide you with the contributions and the needs for each of the 34 strengths, and it comes with a really cool activity that can support how to bring stronger inclusion in the workplace. It's called Best of Me. It gives a lot of great insights into how different people show up and how they bring their best. So with that, dear friends, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time on Coach to Coach.
Thank you for tuning in to the Strengths Whisperer Coach to Coach. Please feel free to reach out to Brandon to partner with 34 Strong for collaboration opportunities to serve your employees or clients together. If you are a strengths coach, lead a strengths-based team, or are a fan of strength, we invite you to receive our complimentary resource, How to Be a Good Teammate to Me, Understanding My Contributions and Needs. Email Brandon_Miller at 34strong.com to connect, and he will gladly share this resource that will continue to unlock the power of strength.